dive into today's episode, I just want to remind you to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. It helps us grow, reach more amazing learners like you, and keep bringing you fresh and fun content every week. So don't forget, like, subscribe, and let's keep this journey going strong. Hello, marvelous language enthusiasts, and a very warm, energetic welcome back to Idiom Insights. I'm Emma, your dedicated guide through the fascinating landscape of English idioms, always ready to uncover their hidden meanings and help you use them like a pro. So thrilled you've joined us again today for another deep dive.
And I'm Jack, your co-host and enthusiastic phrase fancier. I'm here to help unravel these linguistic knots, share some interesting backstories, and make sure you leave today feeling a little bit wiser and maybe even chuckle-worthy. Consider me your partner in idiomatic discovery. It's always a genuine highlight of my week to be back here on Idiom Insights, exploring the quirks of English alongside all of you.
It genuinely is a highlight, Jack, and it's wonderful to be back and ready to explore some more fantastic expressions alongside our dedicated listeners. And today's episode of Idiom Insights features a collection of really wise, encouraging, surprisingly easy, and slightly cautious idioms that touch upon preventing future problems, taking opportunities, describing effortless tasks, and the impact of past negative experiences. These are all phrases you'll hear used very frequently by native English speakers in many different everyday situations, and understanding them will definitely help you participate more fully in conversations, understand more of what you hear, and sound much more natural and confident yourself.
A truly insightful and practical selection indeed. These phrases cover moments of timely action, seizing opportunities, describing ease and reflecting on past caution. And to give you a clear idea of what specific idioms we'll be dissecting, discussing, and illustrating in detail today on Idiom Insights, here are the 4 expressions we've lined up for you. We'll start with some very practical advice about preventing bigger problems down the line with "a stitch in time saves 9. Then we'll look at a phrase that encourages bravery and initiative. Fortune favors the bold. Following that, we'll explore describing a task that is surprisingly easy using "it's a piece of cake." And finally, we'll wrap up with a cautious idiom about learning from negative experiences. Once bitten, twice shy.
That gives our listeners a clear and potentially very helpful preview of the idiomatic wisdom and practicality we'll be covering together over the next little while. 4 very different but equally valuable expressions that are all firmly rooted in everyday English conversation and offer some timeless advice.
They certainly do. And before we dive headfirst into explaining that first piece of sartorial wisdom and really get into the details of its meaning, origin, and how to use it effectively, we wanted to take a quick moment to connect with you, our fantastic audience. If you are finding these episodes of Idiom Insights genuinely helpful and enjoyable for your English learning journey, and if you appreciate the effort we put into creating these explanations and examples for you every time, please consider showing us your support by subscribing or following our podcast on whatever platform you are using right now. It's a simple action for you, but it makes a significant difference to us and helps us keep creating this content.
Your subscription is a wonderful way to ensure you never miss a future episode packed with more useful idioms, clear explanations, and relatable examples that will help you improve your fluency and sound more like a native speaker. It also helps us reach more people around the world who are on a similar path of learning and mastering the nuances of English. And if you feel like going the extra mile and you have the option on your platform, leaving a like or a quick rating is also incredibly helpful and sincerely appreciated. It's a small but incredibly effective gesture that makes a big difference in helping others discover Idiom Insights and grow our lovely community of learners. Thank you so much in advance for your continued support. It genuinely means a lot to us and truly keeps us going.
All right, Emma, are you ready to talk about some timely repairs?
I believe I am, Jack. Let's see how a single stitch can make such a big difference. Excellent. Our very first idiom for today on Idiom Insights, as we previewed, is "a stitch in time saves 9.
A stitch in time saves 9. This idiom is fantastic practical advice wrapped up in a short, memorable phrase. It means that if you deal with a problem immediately, as soon as it arises or as soon as you notice it, you will save yourself a lot more work, trouble, or expense later on. Taking prompt action to fix a small issue prevents it from becoming a much bigger, more complicated, and costly problem down the road.
That's a perfect explanation connecting to the imagery, Jack. The phrase literally refers to sewing. Imagine you notice a very small hole or tear starting in a piece of clothing. If you put in a stitch in time, meaning you sew it up right away while it's still small, it only takes 1 or 2 stitches and a few seconds. However, if you ignore that small tear, it will likely get bigger and bigger over time, perhaps turning into a large rip that requires many stitches or even a whole new piece of fabric, and takes much more time and effort to repair, perhaps even 9 stitches or more. The small, timely repair prevents the large, difficult, and costly future repair.
Exactly. It's about preventing a minor issue from escalating into a major one by addressing it promptly. This idiom is widely used in many different contexts beyond sewing. If you notice a small leak under your sink, fixing it immediately, a stitch in time, prevents water damage to your floor and cabinets later on, which would be much more expensive and time-consuming to repair, saving you the metaphorical 9 stitches.
It's proactive problem solving. It encourages vigilance and quick action when a problem is still manageable. Ignoring problems, hoping they will go away on their own, usually leads to them getting worse and requiring much more effort and resources to fix later. I noticed my car was making a strange noise, but I ignored it for a week. Now the engine has broken down, and it's going to cost a fortune to repair. I wish I had taken a stitch in time and had it checked out when I first heard the noise.
The origin is, as you described, directly from the practice of sewing and repair, specifically dating back to the 18th century. It became a popular proverb because the truth it expresses is universally applicable to so many situations in life, business, and maintenance.
It's incredibly practical advice, reminding us that dealing with issues early is always more efficient and less costly than waiting until they become crises. A small effort now saves a large effort, or many small efforts combined, later.
It perfectly conveys that idea of timely intervention preventing future difficulties. It's a wise proverb that encourages being attentive and proactive.
Let's hear how Mia and Mark use "a stitch in time saves 9" in their conversation. They're talking about dealing with a maintenance issue that should have been addressed earlier.
Oh, Mark, you won't believe the plumbing disaster I had at my apartment over the weekend. The pipe under my bathroom sink just completely burst.
Oh no, Mia, that sounds awful. Was there a lot of water damage? That must have been incredibly stressful to deal with.
It was a nightmare. Water went everywhere. It ruined the cabinet under the sink. And now I'll probably need to replace part of the flooring too.
Wow, that's much worse than I imagined. Was there any sign that something was wrong before it burst?
Well, now that you mention it, I had noticed a tiny, really slow drip from that pipe for maybe a couple of weeks, but I just kept putting off calling the landlord or a plumber about it. I thought, oh, it's just a little drip. It's not a big deal. I'll deal with it later.
I see where this is going. So, that little drip turned into a burst pipe and caused all this major damage because you didn't address it when it was a small issue?
Exactly. My landlord said the same thing when he saw the damage. He said that's why they have that saying, a stitch in time saves 9. If I just reported that small drip right away, it would have been a simple, cheap repair. But by ignoring it, it turned into this huge, expensive disaster that will take days to fix. It really taught me a lesson.
It sounds like a very painful lesson, but definitely one that proves the idiom true.
That's a very clear and relatable example of the idiom in action, even if it was a difficult experience for Mia. She illustrates perfectly how ignoring a small problem, the tiny drip, led to a much larger, more damaging, and costly problem, the burst pipe and water damage. Her landlord's comment directly applies the proverb, "a stitch in time saves 9" to the situation, emphasizing that prompt action would have prevented the major issue.
It perfectly captures the idiom's core meaning. Taking a small, timely action to fix a problem prevents a much larger, more difficult, and expensive problem later. Mia's experience vividly shows the consequences of not taking that stitch in time.
So, listeners, have you ever experienced a situation that taught you that a stitch in time saves 9? Perhaps by fixing something early, or by not fixing something early and seeing it become a bigger problem? Share your sentences using "a stitch in time saves 9" in the comments section below this episode of Idiom Insights. Tell us about a time when timely action, or lack thereof, made a big difference.
It's a very practical piece of wisdom. All right, let's move on to our second idiom. which is much more about courage and opportunity. Our second idiom today on Idiom Insights is fortune favors the bold.
Fortune favors the bold. This idiom is a well-known saying that encourages bravery, initiative, and taking calculated risks. It means that people who are courageous, who take action and seize opportunities, are more likely to be successful or achieve good outcomes than those who are hesitant, cautious, or passive. It suggests that good luck or success is more likely to come to those who are brave and proactive.
That's a perfect explanation, Jack, highlighting the connection between bravery and good outcomes. The phrase suggests that fortune, personified as a powerful force bringing luck or success, smiles upon or is more generous towards those who are bold, those who are brave, daring, and willing to take action rather than waiting passively. It's a motivational phrase, urging people not to be afraid to pursue opportunities.
Exactly. It's often used to encourage someone to take a chance, apply for a challenging position, start a new venture, or speak up when they might otherwise be too nervous or hesitant. If a friend is unsure whether to apply for a competitive scholarship, you might say to them, "Go for it. You're smart and capable." Remember, fortune favors the bold. You're telling them that being brave and applying increases their chances of success compared to not applying at all.
It implies that inaction or excessive caution can lead to missed opportunities, while courageously stepping forward can open doors to success. It's the opposite of being too afraid to try anything new or risky, which might keep you safe, but also might prevent you from achieving great things. Starting my own business felt incredibly scary, but I decided to be bold and go for it. It was difficult, but it paid off. I truly believe fortune favors the bold.
The origin of this phrase is ancient, with similar expressions found in Latin and Greek literature, attributed to figures like Virgil and Erasmus. It's a timeless piece of wisdom that has been passed down through centuries and cultures because it speaks to a fundamental truth about human endeavor. Sometimes, you have to be brave and take action to succeed.
It's a powerful and inspiring idiom that encourages people to overcome fear and seize opportunities. It suggests that courage itself can somehow influence luck or create favorable circumstances. It's about taking destiny into your own hands by being brave.
It perfectly conveys that idea that success is often more likely for those who are brave and proactive. It's a call to action against hesitation and fear.
Let's hear how Mia and Mark use fortune favors the bold in their conversation. They're discussing a friend who took a risk that paid off.
You know, I was just thinking about our friend Sarah and her decision last year to quit her stable job and move to a completely new country to start her own photography business. Everyone, including me, thought it was a huge risk, maybe even a bit crazy.
Oh, absolutely, Mia. I remember us talking about it, and it seemed incredibly brave, almost daunting, to leave everything familiar behind for something so uncertain. I definitely wouldn't have had the courage to do that myself.
Me neither. It felt like she was putting herself way out there with no guarantees at all. But she just believed in herself and her skills, and she was so passionate about photography.
And look at her now. Her business is thriving. She's getting hired for amazing projects all over the world, and she seems happier than ever living in that new city. It really paid off for her, didn't it?
It really, really did. It just goes to show you, I guess. Fortune favors the bold. She took that huge leap of faith, that really brave step, and it seems like good things came her way because she was courageous enough to try.
It's a perfect example of that saying, actually. Her boldness led directly to her success. Very inspiring.
Absolutely. Makes you think about taking more risks yourself sometimes.
That's a fantastic and clear example of the idiom in action. Mia and Mark discuss Sarah's brave decision to quit her job and start a business in a new country. A bold move. Her subsequent success shows that fortune favored the bold in her case. Her courage and initiative led to a positive outcome, proving the idiom true. Their discussion highlights the risk Sarah took and the success she achieved as a result.
It perfectly illustrates how being courageous and taking action can lead to success. Even when the outcome is uncertain, Sarah's story is a clear demonstration of how fortune favors the bold.
So, listeners, has a time in your life or someone you know demonstrated that fortune favors the bold? Perhaps by taking a brave step that led to a positive result. Share your sentences using fortune favors the bold in the comments section below this episode of Idiom Insights. Tell us about a moment when bravery led to good fortune.
It's a very encouraging idiom. All right, let's move on to our third idiom for today. This one is about describing something easy. Our third idiom on Idiom Insights is It's a piece of cake.
It's a piece of cake. This is a wonderfully common and informal idiom that means something is very easy to do, effortless, or requires very little effort or difficulty. If someone says a task is a piece of cake, they mean it's surprisingly simple and easy for them to complete.
That's a perfect description, Jack, capturing the sense of ease and simplicity. The connection to a piece of cake is likely due to the fact that eating a piece of cake is generally a pleasant, easy, and enjoyable experience, requiring no effort compared to, say, eating something hard or preparing a difficult meal. Alternatively, some theories link it to historical competitive events where a cake was offered as an easily won prize, making the task to win it seem comparably easy. Regardless of the exact origin, the core meaning is clear: something delightful and effortless.
Exactly. It's used to describe tasks or challenges that you find surprisingly simple to manage. If someone asks you if you can fix a minor technical issue on their computer, and you know exactly how to do it, you might say, "Oh, that? Don't worry, it's a piece of cake. I can fix that for you in 5 minutes." You're indicating that the task is very easy for you.
It can be used to describe mental tasks, physical tasks, or any kind of challenge that doesn't present significant difficulty for the person performing it. I was worried about passing the driving test, but after all the practice I put in, the actual test felt like a piece of cake. This means the test was very easy for them because they were well prepared.
It's a very positive idiom, used to express that something is much easier than it might appear, or much easier than you perhaps expected. It's the opposite of something being difficult, challenging, or complicated.
The phrase is cheerful and lighthearted, perfectly matching the feeling of finding something surprisingly simple. It implies minimal effort for maximum success or completion.
It perfectly conveys that idea of effortless ease. When something is a piece of cake, you don't have to struggle, it just happens smoothly and simply.
Let's hear how Mia and Mark use "it's a piece of cake" in their conversation. They're talking about a task that one of them found very easy to complete.
Hey Mark, how did you get on setting up that new video conferencing equipment in the meeting room this morning? I saw you were in there earlier. Did it take you long to figure out all the connections and settings?
Oh, that. Yeah, I finished that ages ago, Mia. I was a bit worried about it beforehand, honestly, because the instructions looked a bit complicated in the box and there were so many cables.
I know exactly what you mean. Whenever I have to deal with setting up technical stuff like that, it always seems to take me forever. And I get completely confused by all the different wires and buttons.
Well, I thought it might be tricky too, but actually once I started looking at the back of the machine, everything was labeled really clearly, and the cables only fit into one specific type of slot. It just all clicked into place logically.
Really? So it wasn't difficult at all then, despite looking complicated?
Not at all. It was actually a piece of cake. I had it all connected and working perfectly in less than 15 minutes. Much easier than I expected it to be.
Wow, that's impressive. For me, that would definitely not have been a piece of cake. Good job getting it done so quickly.
Thanks. Glad it was straightforward in the end.
That dialogue is a fantastic illustration of the idiom. Mark describes setting up the video conferencing equipment as a piece of cake because despite initial appearances and his worries, he found it very easy and straightforward to do, completing it quickly. Mia's contrasting experience highlights just how easy it was for him.
It perfectly captures the meaning of the idiom, something that is surprisingly simple or requires little effort for the person doing it. Mark's experience with the equipment assembly was genuinely a piece of cake for him.
So, listeners, what have you found to be a piece of cake recently? Perhaps a task you expected to be difficult, but turned out to be very easy. Share your sentences using "it's a piece of cake" in the comments section below this episode of Idiom Insights. Tell us about something you found surprisingly easy.
It's a fun idiom for celebrating simplicity and ease. And now, for our fourth and final idiom for today's episode of Idiom Insights. This one is about learning from negative experiences and being cautious as a result. Our fourth and final idiom is once bitten, twice shy.
Once bitten, twice shy. This idiom means that after having a negative or unpleasant experience, you are more cautious and hesitant to try something similar again. The negative experience makes you wary and reluctant to repeat the action, or put yourself in a similar situation because you are afraid of being hurt or having another bad experience.
That's a very clear explanation, Jack, highlighting the consequence of a bad experience. The image comes from being bitten by an animal, perhaps a dog. If you are bitten once bitten, you are likely to be very cautious and maybe even fearful around that animal or similar animals in the future. Twice shy. You avoid getting close or putting yourself in a position where you could be bitten again.
Exactly. In everyday language, this idiom is used when someone is reluctant or hesitant to do something because of a previous bad experience related to it. If you tried a new restaurant and you had a terrible meal there, you might be hesitant to try any new restaurants for a while, or at least that specific one again. You might say, I had such a bad experience at that new place downtown. The food was awful and the service was terrible. Now, when my friends want to try a different new restaurant, I'm much more hesitant. I guess I'm once bitten, twice shy when it comes to trying new places right now.
It implies that the negative experience has created a lasting sense of caution and wariness. It's a learned behavior resulting from past pain or disappointment. If someone invested money in a stock that completely lost its value, they might become very hesitant to invest in stocks again in the future. They are once bitten, twice shy about stock market investments.
It perfectly captures that reluctance to repeat an action that led to a negative outcome. It's about being overly cautious specifically because of past trauma or disappointment.
The origin is straightforward, referring to the natural reaction of an animal or person who has been physically bitten and becomes fearful or wary of the source of the bite. This physical reaction serves as a powerful metaphor for any kind of negative experience, leading to increased caution.
It's a very common idiom to explain someone's hesitation or reluctance based on past events. It explains why someone might avoid something that seems harmless to others because they had a negative encounter with it in the past.
Let's hear how Mia and Mark use once bitten, twice shy in their conversation. They're talking about someone who is now hesitant to do something after a negative experience.
Do you think David will apply for that team leader position that just opened up in his department? He was talking about wanting more responsibility last month.
I'm not so sure he will this time, Mia. I think he might be a bit hesitant after what happened with that promotion he applied for a few months ago.
Oh, you mean the one he didn't get? Yeah, I remember you saying that was a bitter pill for him to swallow because he was really hoping to get it.
Exactly. He put in so much effort on the application and the interview process, and he really got his hopes up. And then, when he didn't get it, he was incredibly disappointed and quite upset about it for a while.
That makes sense. Rejection is never easy, especially when you really want something.
Right. And I think because that experience was so disappointing and difficult for him, now he's feeling a bit reluctant to try again for another position so soon. He seems a little scared of putting himself out there and getting rejected again. I think he's feeling a bit once bitten, twice shy about applying for internal promotions now.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. That bad experience made him cautious about trying again, didn't it? Hopefully, he'll feel ready to apply in the future when he's had more time to recover from the disappointment.
I hope so too. It's a natural reaction though.
That dialogue is a perfect illustration of the idiom. David's negative experience of applying for a promotion and being rejected, being bitten, has made him hesitant and reluctant to apply for another similar position now, making him twice shy. Mia and Mark's conversation clearly explains the past disappointment that is causing his current caution and hesitation.
It perfectly captures the meaning of the idiom, a past negative experience leading to current wariness and reluctance to repeat a similar action. David's previous disappointment makes him once bitten, twice shy about applying again, which is a very relatable human reaction.
So, listeners, have you ever been once bitten, twice shy about something? Perhaps trying a new activity, trusting someone, or taking a particular risk after a bad experience. Share your sentences using once bitten, twice shy in the comments section below this episode of Idiom Insights. Tell us about a time you became more cautious after a negative event.
It's an idiom that reflects on the impact of experience. And that brings us to the end of our 4 idioms for today on Idiom Insights. We've explored the wisdom of timely action, the encouragement of bravery, the simplicity of easy tasks, and the caution that comes from past negative experiences.
We have certainly covered a fascinating and very useful set of phrases today. In this episode of Idiom Insights, we learned that dealing with a problem early to prevent bigger issues is a stitch in time saves 9. We discovered that courage and initiative often lead to success. Fortune favors the bold. We explored how to describe something very easy by saying, it's a piece of cake. And finally, we talked about being cautious after a bad experience, being once bitten, twice shy.
These are all excellent idioms that are used frequently by native English speakers in a wide variety of contexts. Adding them to your vocabulary will make your English sound much more natural, fluid, and expressive. So please please don't hesitate to start using them. Try practicing them aloud, writing them in sentences, or even using them in a conversation if you have the opportunity. Consistent practice is the most effective way to truly master these phrases and make them a natural part of your everyday English.
Absolutely. Give them a try in your practice sessions. And if you enjoyed this episode of Idiom Insights and found it helpful for your English learning journey today, please remember to show us your support and help us reach more learners by giving us a like and considering leaving a quick rating on your podcast platform. Your positive feedback is incredibly motivating for us and helps new listeners discover our show.
It truly does. And to make absolutely sure you don't miss out on any future episodes where we'll explore even more fascinating and useful English idioms, please be sure to subscribe or follow Idiom Insights wherever you are listening right now. Join our growing and enthusiastic community of idiom explorers.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today and for being a dedicated part of the Idiom Insights audience. We genuinely appreciate your commitment to learning English and hope you found our episode both insightful and enjoyable.
It truly was a pleasure. Keep practicing, keep exploring the wonderful nuances of the English language, and we'll be back soon with more Idiom Insights.
Until next time, keep learning, keep smiling, and may fortune favor your boldness. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.